Alright folks, short introduction because unfortunately my recording, even though it's set to record the last 2 hours, only recorded the last 48 minutes on this one, so it actually picks up right at the end of qualifying. And we're in round 5 here, MoJo Showdown at Baku. Poor attendance again! I mean, there's only 16 seats in the league, we're only running 8 teams, but still, 9. It's like every other race we have good attendance, so it was like round 1 and 3. Well, I guess it's not every other, because then that would mean this one has good attendance. But you get what I mean. It seems like every other race fluctuates where you have really good, really not good attendance. But, you know, there was some family stuff going on apparently. A couple of MoJo's brothers, well, both of them unable to race. The one guy's teammate also couldn't race. It was a whole mess. But the points still count the same. Still got to stay focused. And as you saw, we qualified on the medium tire here at Baku. And because of that, Timo, being close to or the same pace as us, qualifies on a softer tire. Obviously, he's going to get pole over us. My thought process going in here, and I was actually really surprised looking back that I made this decision, because every day, usually, if you ask any other day version of Logan, like what he would do in a race, I always start on the softer tire that I'm going to be on because it allows you to have the most flexibility with your strategy if there's an early safety car. But I'll explain in a little bit why I kind of decided against that, but we want to get a good grid start here. We do not want to fall victim to whoever is in third behind us. We want to stay as close to Timo as possible. We get a decent start, no contact into turn 1, and we're off to the races. I leave room there on the outside just in case he does make the move there. Like I said, don't want to throw the whole race away right here, but we're going to use ERS early, and this was my strategy, this was my thought process. So I knew I had really good pace here at Baku. This is one of my better tracks. And I thought, okay, well, if I start on mediums, then worst case scenario, if he starts on softs, the part of the race where he's quicker, I can kind of make up for that by using ERS and his slipstream to kind of pull me along, whereas he won't have that luxury later because I'll be on the softs coming up behind him, and then the softs will be so much faster that I'll just be able to overtake him and then use my ERS to break away. So it was a little bit of a riskier thought process. I mean, it's definitely a solid plan. I know I have good pace. I can still be flexible with this. Like, if a safety car comes out, then we're both on the same lap hards, and then everything goes back to, like, Britain, you know, where we just kind of race heads up. But yeah, honestly, looking back, I'm still surprised I made this, because a lot of people don't know that Baku, if you have an okay setup on and you don't light up the rear tires all the time, that you can do softs, mediums, one stop here. So, like I said, usually 9 other times out of the 10, I'm the type of guy that I start on the softer tire, like I explained in my previous video, so I won't rehash the same topic. But like I just said earlier, I can use the part of the race where he has the advantage to use my resources to keep up with him, so he kind of tows me along to make my, so to say, weaker part of the Grand Prix, where I'm on the slower tire, not as bad. And then hopefully that'll be the difference. And like I said, if there is a safety car, I'm very okay just racing this track straight up with him, because this is one of my better tracks. But early, as you can see, I don't have to burn all of my ERS, I have to burn a little bit of it, because he's definitely burning some of his. But we're still in his slipstream, we're still in his DRS range, which is good. See, right now, even if he does break out of my DRS, I'm not really worried about it. I just don't want him to open up a huge gap, because then we could have, you know, then we could have a race. So anything other than him just yeeting away from me is definitely a win for us, especially if there's not a safety car that brings us back together. But like I said, if there is, I'm very okay with that. You know, I'll race this track. Heads up, I feel comfortable with this. But, you know, the more I watch this looking back, I'm so shocked I made this decision. Like, it would have been really smart for me to just qualify on softs. There was a small gap between us in qualifying, so if I was on the softs and I put in the same quality a lap that I did on the mediums, I would have definitely got pole. I could just have track position and then just do like we did in rounds 2 and 4, where it was just a straight up race with us on the same strategy. But you know what? It's behind me. I made the decision. There at least was some good logic behind the decision, so I'm probably just overthinking it. But anyhow, at Baku, it is a difficult track. The way I would describe Baku is that when it comes to the learning curve, like this is the graph, and the further up we go, the better you are at the track. The learning curve of Baku, it's like you suck, you suck, you suck, you suck, and then once you get to the point where you're not smashing in the walls and stuff, it's like, oh, now I'm good at this track. Like, and then Like, it's one of those tracks that you're just awful at it, and then when you get the hang of it, you're like, okay, all in all, this track's actually a very straightforward track to drive. Just a lot of 90-degree corners, a couple corners where the traction's tricky because you're coming up over or up a hill or something of the sorts. You just gotta be careful. But yeah, it's just one of those tracks you just gotta smooth is fast. And sometimes it's really good not to over any section that's more than one corner. You just don't want to overcommit to one corner. But something that's a mistake I feel like a lot of people make on tracks like this is that because they drive conservatively, instead of braking earlier, they just brake more and take the corners at slower speeds. What you should do is just, if anything, brake that touch earlier, but still carry the same speed through the corner, because the faster you're going through a corner, the more the aerodynamics of the car is going to push it down. I mean, I'm on pads, so I can't speak for wheel players. You can feel a lot more of the car when you're closer to the limit, because you start to get those vibrations. You can tell where you're at in terms of grip. But when you're not at the limit, you know, if you go through the corner slower than you normally would to err on that side of caution, whereas instead of my idea of just braking earlier but carrying the same amount of speed, you're not going to get as much as that feedback. And feedback is obviously really important because you want to be able to feel what the car is doing or where your limit of grip is. But, you know, it's just different schools of thought, so might as well talk about it. So yeah, here we are. I am using a decent amount of my ERS. I don't think I am quite in his DRS here. And, of course, like I said, I want to be in his DRS, obviously. Who wouldn't want to be in the car ahead's DRS? But I wasn't really too worried here because, like I said, I'm keeping up with him right now. This is the part of the race where he's going to have the biggest advantage over me. So the fact that this is even close is, like I said, a win for me, especially if there is not a safety car that comes out during his soft stint. The one thing that could potentially screw this strategy over is if there's a safety car before he needs to pit off the softs. And then, while I did say I'm comfortable with us both going to hards, if it brings the whole field together and then I somehow will get caught up with this incident with the third place guy, then that could lose the race there. So that was like the only worry I had. But at the same time, when I'm racing, like, anyone that knows me in the other leagues I race in, or the other 2 years that I have been a league racer, it's literally a meme in other leagues that I'm in that you always know if a safety car is going to come out. Like, the answer of will a safety car come out is the same as the answer of will it screw over Logan right now. Like, there's one league that through the first 7 rounds of the season, there was 11 safety cars, and 10 of the 11 were when I was leading and I did not win a safety car. And I had only won 2 of the races, so it's not like I was just always in the lead, so the safety cars were always going to be. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I have criminally bad luck in league racing, but I don't think about that. When I'm racing, I'm always focused on the here and now situation. I don't worry about the things that I can't control. Yeah, I get really frustrated by them. Yeah, they suck, but like I said, if you can't control it, don't worry about it. But you know what I can control? I control my consistency, I can control my pace. And you saw the last couple laps while I've been rattling on about absolute nonsense, I've actually caught up to him while not using all of my ERS, which is good. So I still have ERS to make a move on him, and I've got into his DRS. And at this moment, I was feeling really confident that if there isn't a safety car, that I was going to be able to make this happen. Because like I said, if he's on the quicker tire right now, this is the part of the race where he's going to be quicker than me. So if he was going to pull a gap in this race, it would have to be right now, or like I said, if a safety car came out. And it is a shame that I didn't catch qualifying at the beginning, because that would have gave me more time to talk about the situation of the standings and such. But you know, it is what it is. I'll try to double down and make sure I get quality. I know some people in the league wanted to specifically see our quality run, so I apologize about that. I'll be honest, like usually, like, I don't want to say I'm super tech savvy when it comes to programming and stuff. Like, I got my basics down, but I do know pretty well like how the PlayStation runs and such, and I still have no idea why it didn't save anything before that. You know, I was in the game the whole time. It didn't exit any menus to reset the counter, but yeah, it just, for some reason, only captured, I think it was like 48.5 minutes instead of, well, let me see, yeah, it captured 49 minutes and 20 seconds when it should have captured about 2 hours, because like I was on the game for an extended period of time before this. But nonetheless, we are right up his chuff here, and of course with the ERS I've saved, I should have plenty of ERS to be able to make this move And he's going to make the smart play here to not fight it. Because no matter what, I'm going to make this overtake happen here. So if he would waste ERS on a pass that happens anyhow, then he has less ERS
Good job.
to
Nice overtake.
use to try to stay in my DRS to help keep him from losing as much time as possible. It's just one of those little things that, you know, every little bit helps, especially when you're in other leagues where you got like 10 to 12 people be on Timo's pace. You know, it really comes down to the little micro adjustments. Like when you saw in round, I believe it was round 4 at Britain, where it was just coming down to the smallest of margins. Like you can have that, but not just with 2 cars, but you know, half or even 3/4 of the grid. So yeah, now we got the lead. We are on the medium tires. Now it doesn't even matter if a safety car comes out, because we see we have a little bit of a pace advantage here. So if we're both on the same tires, there's no worry. We're ahead of them, and he's going to have to pit before us. So at this point, you saw me check my tire wear about half a lap ago. My tire wear is fantastic. You know, I'm not even at 20% yet, and we're on lap 6. I'm going to take these tires long, and I'm going to pit late in the race onto the softs, and I'm going to be dirty quick on those softs at the end of the race. And hopefully everything just goes to plan and we're able to cruise away with this one. But like I said, those are the kind of things I can't control, so I wasn't even thinking about that at all. I'm just focusing on keeping it clean. It looks like I'm right on the limit going up against the walls, but I don't know how to word it. I'm really not. Like, I brake, you know, maybe just the slightest bit earlier, but I'm still carrying a decent amount of speed in, and I'm just really focusing on making those micro adjustments mid-corner if necessary, you know, not being over aggressive, getting on the throttle, just doing these little things to help make sure that I don't damage the car. And something I always tell people when I was coaching a team for a league was that you don't want to be a hero going for a couple of 10s and risk losing, you know, 5 seconds to change a wing or 3 seconds for a penalty, because those penalties or those wing changes are not going to add up to those hundredths or even those 10s that you're going to save by being overly aggressive like that. And over the course of an entire season, as frustrating as it can be sometimes if you see yourself moving backwards or not getting that guy that's right in front of you, just racing to the best of your ability and pretty much just ignoring the other cars as much as possible is just the best way to go about things, especially in the situation that I'm in right here with Timo, where pretty much every race, it seems like right now that me and Timo are going to be 1 and 2 with each other. So what's going to make a big difference down the road in this championship is not even so much who's winning, who's getting second. Obviously, I'll make a big difference. But if you have a couple races where you're getting like a 5th or a 7th, that's a huge difference. You literally have to win like 1 or 2 races more just to make up for that gap that you create for yourself because you didn't get second and instead picked up, you know, like a 5th or maybe even a DNF. So, like I said, consistency is key. 1 lap pace doesn't matter. It's all about race pace. I preach that all the time. And right now, we've got the race pace. We still got plenty of ERS. We're okay on fuel. We got the tire strategy advantage. Everything's going our way right now. I think we actually do break out of his DRS here. No, I don't think we did, because I wouldn't be swerving there if we didn't. But yeah, we're still looking good. And we're just going to carry on for the rest of the stint.
A new strategy is available.
Oh, we got a new strategy from Jeff. What did he recommend? I think he recommends I go longer.
Copy.
No, he recommends for some reason to do a 2-stop. And I politely yet firmly tell him to piss off. As we fast forward later into the stint, at this point Timo had already pit. I was occasionally checking on the gap just to try to give myself a frame of reference of how much time I'll have to make up to overtake him when I go to the sauce, but everything seems to be checking out good right now.
14.1
as
seconds.
Jeff says, 14.1 seconds. And going into this race, I guess I forgot to give you an update on the championship. We are currently leading the Drivers' Championship by 9 points over Timo, but we are down in the Constructors by, I believe, was it 17 points? It was either 17 points or 14 points. So nonetheless, we are looking all right now for the Drivers' Championship, but it is still close. We're still early in the season, still have plenty of races to go, so not getting big-headed or concerned about points too much at the moment. But being down in the Constructors' Championship, that's one of those things where, because there's 2 drivers involved, that can take a lot of swings, and the last thing you want to do is get yourself into just an unsurmountable gap early in the season. So doing my bit, you know, our teammate had a rough go last couple races with DNFs, but at this point in the race, I forget where he was in this point in the race, but I remember checking in with Jeff at some point, and you know, he was in a good point scoring position. There's only 8 drivers left in this race, and he is in it, not only in it, but not in the back, so every little point matters. And I was hoping not only would I be able to close out this race, but if he can get some solid points too, not only can it help me extend my championship lead in the drivers, we can start pulling back that gap in the constructors as well. Because in the drawing after this race, I saw that the next track is Imola, and that one is going to be a troubling race for us. It's one of those ones where I expect to not win. There's 3 tracks in this game that really stick out to me in terms of being a pad player, where you're just so disadvantaged because the steering saturation. For you that don't know what I'm talking about, on wheel, if I'm on the wheel and I go left right fast, in game the driver goes left right fast. On pad, if you go left on the stick, right on the stick fast, the driver goes left, back to neutral, back to right. So there's a delay. That's called saturation. It saturates the input. And unfortunately, on tracks like Imola, they have a lot of really fast left-right chicanes. Italy, and Cat's making an appearance, and also Monaco has a lot of these chicanes that the speed that you take the chicane is faster for top level play is faster than that a pad player can turn left-right. So you just flat out lose time. And Imola, next week's race, is one of those tracks where pad players just, for the lack of a better term, just eat shit. So, that one's going to be a struggle for me. Hoping to just not lose the whole season on those 3 races. Just do what we can. But who knows? Maybe we'll be a hero and still pick up a win. You never know. But yeah, so if we were to lose points in the Constructors' Championship on this race as well, like we have the last couple races, and then going into the next race where we'll probably lose more points, we could get ourselves into a gap that we just won't be able to make up. And I'll kind of run you guys through a lap here to get the idea of what I'm doing, using the whole width of the track, braking pretty much around the red. You don't want to take that inside curve or go too deep and get yourself a warning. This corner is pretty easy. Brake just a touch before the red, but carry a decent amount of speed to keep the grip up. Nice and smooth on the throttle. Don't want to spin the tires unnecessarily because it's actually slower even though you're getting to full throttle quicker. And also you put wear on your tires, which is going to make you slower over time. Same thing here, just a touch before the red. Try to avoid the inside curve. You can use that space on the outside. Same exact thing here. I kind of take a little bit of late apexes, if you can tell. My turning point is sharp but late, which helps me straighten out the car faster and also avoid making mistakes of hitting the inside wall. There, like I said early on in this race, when there's a series of corners here, you don't want to overcommit to one. And what I mean by that is you still want to carry decent speed through the corner. So commit with the speed, but don't commit with the line. Here's a perfect example. I'm carrying tons of speed through here, but I'm not committing all the way to the outside of the exit of any corner. So I'm constantly in a good position with my momentum up, still transition into the next corner. And that balance is a really good way to go about driving a track like this, or pretty much any track that has a series of corners. As Phoebes takes her rightful spot at my pillow to get it nice and covered in fur for when I have to lay my face on it here in about a couple hours. So, like I just told Jeff right there, good old Jeff. A lot of people don't like Jeff. I love Jeff. I think Jeff is great. Don't know why he's telling me about grip loss of my tires when I just told him I'm about the box. So we're going to come into the pits here, get a nice fast pit entry here. Don't want to lose unnecessary time in the pits, but of course, like I always said, don't want to be a hero going for a couple extra tenths and give myself a penalty. Nice clean entrance there. Like I said in the previous videos, pit stops are always going to be 2.6 seconds.
Exit now.
So if there's no one else near you, you can just release right at that point. But like I said, if there's someone else near you coming into the pits, do not drop your clutch, and then waste like a full second re-engaging the clutch and getting your revs up.
One stop left.
I'm actually happy to see lap cars out here in front of me because I know I can probably just get DRS off of them like I do right here, and that's free pace. Because A, you go faster, and B, you can use less ERS on that straight to get the same amount of speed. So you can just use that ERS later. It's free pace. Can be a little distracting when you're going through them, but when you have really good muscle memory and you're really confident you're breaking turning points, you just drive through them like they're not there. Now we are on the fresh softs. As you can see, P2, Timo in the lead. He's on mediums, slightly worn at this point, but he pitted way before us to get a huge undercut, but we are still feeling very good about this. I'm pretty sure very soon I do ask Jeff what the gap is to get a reference. That is not Timo, that car up there ahead. That is another lap car. There were quite a few lap cars. I forget how many cars. I think only 4 cars finished on the lead lap in this race.
4.8 seconds.
4.8 seconds, Timo on old mediums.
8 laps old.
So we should be able to catch him probably about 3 to 4 laps, depending how well we put together these laps. It is a little bit weird going from worn softs on heavy fuel to fresh worn mediums on heavy fuel to fresh softs on light fuel. It's a very big pace difference. Kind of caught me off guard because, like I said, usually I go from the softer tire to the harder tire, so it's less of a... As you can see me mumbling there, I'm saying teammate coming in clutch right now with the slipstream. Always appreciate that. And it always feels good that if you're out in front and you know your teammates getting points too, and you just know that no matter what, like, you're on the team that's bringing home the most points, you know, that's just... It feels good to move up in not just one set of standings, but both of them. And especially, like I said, it was a pretty big buzzkill to hear that Imola's the next track, but at the same time, we're going to have to get him out of the way eventually. Doesn't mean that we're just going to roll over and give up. We're going to come in practice. I'm definitely going to work on a different setup. The setup did not work for me in a race I had recently on the Imola. And we're going to come in and give it our best honest effort. Like I said, being a pad player, we're going to be very disadvantaged there, but we're going to do our best. We're going to do what we can, and at the very least, hopefully bring home a second. But like I said, we're not just going to lay over. Maybe we can still get the win, but hopefully we don't get a couple of these pad disadvantage tracks all right in a row. That's what I don't want. I want them to be spread out a little bit, because if they all come right in a row, Timo could very easily just overtake me in the championship and start creating a gap, and then that puts the pressure on us to beat him. And I like being out front. I mean, who doesn't like being out front? Put the pressure on the opponent. You can just race your own race like always. But as we can see, we are gaining at a rapid rate here. I feel very quick around this track. The DRS off the lap McLaren and my teammate on the same lap definitely really helped. I don't think he got DRS off both of them.
The gap behind us is 15.0
Could be wrong though.
seconds.
As you can see, big gap behind. I think everyone else in this race got the strategy wrong. They were all doing something else, whether it was a 2-stop, go into the hards. I don't know. Maybe they got damaged, so they did pit. We put in fastest lap there. I think we do actually beat that fastest lap later with the DRS we can get from Timo here. But yeah, we just got to catch up to Timo, not do anything fancy, not risk crashing out. Just do what we did the first time we passed him and just get yourself into a position where it's, it doesn't even leave an opportunity for him to fight it. Don't need to take any chances. Our pace is great. As you can see, we're going to get into the DRS here on this next lap. Don't want to risk anything too crazy here. Don't even want to get all too close and get too much dirty air, put unnecessary strain on the tires. As you can see, coming in here, you want to take all the curb here on the inside. If you only take a little bit of that curb, you actually understeer, which really sucks. Brake a little bit early, chuck it in, carry the speed, but don't overcommit the line. Let off early there. Pretty much do all your braking and letting off the castle section earlier than the game recommends. Like I said, it really helps keep your momentum up because the more speed you carry through. I know I'm rehashing the same point, but helps the aerodynamics push the car down. And here we are, right in his DRS. Still have plenty of ERS, a lot of RSs in Formula 1, and I think we are able to get the overtake done here. Oh, but it looks like he is burning a decent amount of ERS.
By a few seconds per lap.
I actually don't think we overtake him here, if I remember correctly. Not to spoil anything. But, yeah, he has a decent gap up there. We might still have a chance coming down the second DRS straight. Jeff is a moron and thinks that I'm going to pit again in this race. You know, I have fresh softs and only 5 laps to go. But he can go ahead and think that. Still love you, though, Jeff. And we're going to get a good run out of here. This may be an an opportunity to overtake him. Both the pace advantage we got, still keeping a hold of a decent amount of ERS, it is pretty unnecessary. And we see that right there, the red blinking light. He's pushing as hard as he can to keep us behind, but now he's at the point where he is low in ERS. Not only does he not have ERS to use, but when your red light's on at 15%, your ERS is just weaker overall. Like, it gets weaker at 20%, it gets weaker at 15%, it gets really weak at
5 laps of fuel
10%.
remaining.
So, keeping that red blinking light from coming on and using your ERS is really important. Like, I will rarely use overtake below 30%, especially if it's before the last lap of the race. Last lap of the race, obviously, it's just full beans, use what you got left, but yeah, just cruising around with that red light on, you're just going to naturally lose a lot of pace, even if you're not even touching the button, so don't want to do that. And as you can see, we're leaving a nice margin for error in these corners, not overextending ourselves and hitting a wall or anything stupid like that, or getting a dumb penalty, because remember, cash prize for least penalties, we want that. We like cash prizes in gaming, folks. Always a good thing. And much closer this time, we know that he doesn't have the ERS that we have, and we should be able to make this overtake pretty easily. Yes, into the lead. And whether if it's like an inevitable overtake or not, when every time you make that pass into the lead, it always feels good, because you know everything's coming together. The driving's coming together, the strategy's coming together. Nothing in the race that you can't control has screwed you over, which is honestly the best part. Because, like I said, I got really bad luck in league racing. These videos haven't shown it yet, but in my other leagues, sheesh, I could go on. I'm pretty confident I can make at least a 2-hour montage of me getting hit. Or safety cars coming out at horrible times, like the lap after I pit. That has happened way too much. Way more times than I want to admit. So yeah, we make the overtake here, lap 22. 5 to go if you include this lap, and we should be able to bring this one home. As we come now, last lap, end of the Grand Prix. We are going to be able to pick up the win here, but we're going to have a pretty big gap behind because Timo did pit. There was enough of a gap to third that you guys heard earlier that Timo made the smart play and pit into that gap on the fresh softs, and he's going to be able to pick up an easy bonus point for fastest lap. So we only outscore him by 6 points instead of 7, but at the same time, outscoring your championship rival by 6 points, you're going to take that every day of the week. Well, probably only one day out of the week, because you only race one day out of the week, but nice little pun there. We take the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Timo's going to come in second, and it's a 2-3 it looks like it's going to be for Williams. So do they actually outscore us? Let me do the math here. If I score 25, race guy in 5th, that scores 10 for 35 points. Timo second for 17. Barkologist 15, so that is 32 points, plus the bonus point for fastest lap, that is 33 points. So, outscore him by 2 points. So, we take every little gain that we can get in the Constructors' Championship. Not going to complain about that. Like I said, hopefully next week when it's a pad disadvantage track, we don't get destroyed, but we'll see what happens. Going in optimistic, we see a nice battle here right at the end between Andrew and Barkologist for the podium. If Andrew can get this, it's going to help us majorly in the Constructors. Every point counts, because right now we would only outscore him by 2 points, but if he can make this pass, we will outscore him by 5 points. And he does. He makes the pass, beats him by just shy of 0.2 of a second. And that helps us a lot. I was really happy to see that. My mic was muted at this point. I always do it at the end of the race. I don't know why, just habit. And yeah, I was pumped to see that Andrew got into third there. Every point we can get to the championship always helps. Who's going to get driver of the day? Do we actually get driver of the day here? Yes, we did. The game really liked us going second to first, even though there's only 9 cars, but yeah, we take that. You don't get any kind of reward for driver of the day, but it's the sentimental value that matters, folks. So yeah, and that's going to basically do it for that race. I'm going to wait to the end here so we can get the final standings. 3 different countries on the podium. We are representing the US of A. which you don't see many Americans in league racing, which is, I think I stated earlier, one of the main reasons I joined this. You know, I got into this community of content creators because you don't see many Americans, and to see a whole group of them that are all American, that was, you know, it's nice to see, nice to support the cause, so to say. More XP for a battle pass I didn't buy because I don't give a shit about people like Arva. And there is our final results. Look at this. No penalties. No penalties by anyone. You gotta give people props for that. Only one DNF. No one's getting penalties. First and fifth by our team. That's what we like to see. And yeah, we were seemingly the only ones that nailed the strategy. Man, I don't know who that was at the bottom. It looks like they had a 5-stop race going on. Must have got some damage multiple times. But yep, feels good to get this result, and hopefully we can replicate it next week. But it'll be very tough being a track like Imola. So I'll see you guys then.